a discussion right at the beginning, which we meant to schedule for later, but it actually happened before the call. So just to update you, Arnold, I hope your dinner's okay there. I see you. What are you relishing for there, Arnie? You just Arnold Orkin. I'm talking to you. This is not a TV show. I can actually see you. Hello, George. Hello, Leon Gershkovitz. Hello, my sister-in-law, Joanne Vedetsky, Monty Kaplan. Sarah, are you coming from the Western Wall? Where are you, Sarah's iPad? That's great. This, Sarah, that's a very nice Zoom background. This is my actual background. Those are actual books, Monty Kaplan. But I haven't read any of them despite the lockdown, mainly because I have 3 kids. But just to update you, we had a discussion between Zelda Josselofitz and Jeff Allen, and we've established that Zelda wanted to know if Jeff Allen was related to Debbie Allen. And guys, I can confirm for all of you on the call that Debbie Allen is actually the daughter of Jeff Allen, and that Zelda Josselofitz was so excited to hear that she actually said the words, "Wow." And so I just wanted to update all of you on the Jewish geography that happened at the beginning of the call. And then Jeff informed us that actually Arnold is his Machatonim. I forget the correct wording that you used, Jeff. And then Zelda asked Jeff if he knew of a Yiddish translator, but he didn't. But he said Arnold can translate, and then Zelda said fantastic, because we've got a letter from the 1930s between 2 people who were having an affair in Lithuania at the time, and we want to know who was having the affair with whom. And there was, as a result, so we can prove whether the kid was his kid or not. And so all of that happened before, Sarah, before you were even on the call, Leon Gershkovitz, tonight. And there is Tammy. It's fantastic. I can see you, Tammy, and Robbie Vedetsky. Zayda Robbie, how's it going? I've got to, let's see if I can unmute him. Yes, I can. And Robbie, how are you?
How are you?
Yes.
Hey, I'm fine. Who's that?
This is Nick. It's fantastic to see you, and welcome to the call.
Nick, listen, there's something wrong with my computer. We got a little one. I only got a tiny little thing in. I hear everything, but I don't see everybody.
Well, we can see you, Tammy. We see you very clear. I love that dress you're wearing. It looks like it's the Brazilian rainforest. I can't quite see what it is, but it's lovely. We see you, we hear you, Robbie, and I'll be talking to you later. I want to have a discussion on Lithuania. It's in my drosh towards the end of tonight's show. I don't even know how long this show is going to be.
Nick, you can stop after 5 hours. But Nick, do you know that you and I are related, actually? You want me to explain to you to how? I tell you what, my Uncle Robbie is my uncle, right?
Yes.
His son is Lance.
That's
Lance
correct.
is married to Joanne.
That's
Joanne
right.
has a sister. I forgot her name, and that
Debbie.
sister is your wife.
That's quite correct. And
so we're very closely related than you and I.
There we go. That's my brother and sister-in-law, Joanne Vedetsky. And Mr. Vedetsky, Dr. Lance Vedetsky, dentist to the stars. And so they are here with us. Robbie, Lance is there. I don't know if you can see him, but he can see you. And the magic of technology, here it is at play tonight on this Zoom show, beaming around the world to 37 people. We've got Daphne. Put your camera on, Daphne Kuhn, theater. What's that word that they use, Daph? It's not like theater owner, but it's that fancy word. It's like the impresario. Impresario. Daphne Kuhn. My very first show in Joburg was at the Theatre on the Square, guys, and Daph invited the entire the members of the theatre. The average age was 92, George, and an entirely Jewish audience. And I can remember, Daph, I was in the wings. I was about to come on to the stage, and I overheard 2 women in the front row say, "Who's this Nick Benefits guy anyway? Is this like a piano recital?" And her friend said, "I don't know, but he's one of us. We must support him." And you have supported him for many years, and I thank you. And And we will be back in the theatre someday. But right now, here we are. It is now today I believe, what is the actual date? Thursday, the 18th of February in the year of our virus, 2021. Corresponding, Rabbi, to the 6th of Adar, 5781. 5781, of course, corresponding, Tammy, to the total number of years that we as the Jewish people have been worried that something bad was going to happen. Why do you think King David was called the warrior king in the first place? And as it turns out, we were right. Something bad did actually happen. So it's been almost I think almost a year since I've been doing Zoom shows. And as you can see, I've actually, Zelda, I actually got dressed up for you guys, but I am still wearing my pajama bottoms, because that's what we've been doing for the last year while we do these shows. And I've actually decided to rebrand Arnold. I'm no longer a stand-up. I'm a sit-down comedian. That's what it says on my LinkedIn profile. Peter Fine, when you write this article for ArtsLink, Nick Rubinovitz, sit-down comedian. But this was never the dream, Arnold Garber. When I studied business science many years ago, obviously my mother wanted me to be a neuroscientist, but then I went into comedy. But my real dream was to become an Afrikaans rugby player. Now I suspect that we might have a couple of Boere Jode on the call. If you are, just by a show of hands, if there are any. David Shapiro. I'm not right. I've got actually somebody from my road, David Shapiro from Burgundy Road in Meadow Ridge, also known as Constantia, depending if you're an estate agent or not. We call it Meadow Ridge when we go to the doctor. Sometimes we call it Grassy Park North. Lovely to have my neighbors. Have you seen the WhatsApp? I just joined the WhatsApp. Shapiro's, are you on our WhatsApp group? Because I just saw a message from Sue saying there's a terrible noise, or the dogs are barking. I think it's opposite the field. Somebody's at the bins. Sue, you left your garage door open. David, your bin is there. You forgot it. It's wonderful being on the WhatsApp group, isn't it? I've got to leave, but I can't. The shame will be unbearable. And so here we are, and 1920. This is my 20th year. Daff Philip, this is my 20th year doing stand-up, and Leon Gershlovitz. Leon, you're the worst oak to have in the front row of a comedy show, because you've got that, it's just blank.
Why? I've done nothing yet. I've only just arrived.
I've only just arrived. Yes, I know, but it's like having the late great Rabbi Mazel's Oliver Sholem in the front row. Never forget the show I did for Camps Bay Shul 16 years ago. He sat stony-faced for 30 minutes, and every 2 minutes he would take out his notebook and make notes. And I was too terrified to ask him what he was doing until 5 years ago at Michelle Child's prayers. I said, Rabbi Mazel's, do you remember that show 10 years ago? And you didn't laugh once, and he took notes throughout the show. I said, what were you doing? And he said, what could I do? Sermons don't write themselves. I was taking notes, which I found a great compliment, Leon Gershlovitz. It's wonderful.
I'm not taking notes tonight.
Oh, fantastic. Leon, you look like you're relaxed. You look like you are pretending you're on a flight, and they've just said, sit back, relax, and enjoy the flight. Words that we may never hear for the rest of our life.
Can I be anything but relaxed in your show?
Absolutely, Leon. You can let it all hang out. Now, Leon, let me tell you something, that as a 12, 13-year-old, my dream was to become an Afrikaans rugby player, because my dad was a Boere Jode from Namakoland. And I used to practice, there was a field, there was actually a horse paddock on the farm Eagle's Nest, where I used to pick up the rugby. I used to practice on my own, Zelda Josselowitz. I'm glad that Mr. Josselowitz has gone to put on a shirt, finally. He's been bare-chested there the whole time in front of that face brick. I love the face brick behind the bed. My brother-in-law, Lance Verdetsky, would approve of the face brick, because you don't have to paint your bedroom. And so when I was on the field, Leon Gershlovitz, I was an only child, so I used to play with myself, and I used to pick up the ball, and I would commentate on my own rugby games in Afrikaans. I'd get the ball. Arnold, I don't think your Afrikaans is so hot, so I'll translate for you, Arnold. I used to get the ball.
Ek verstaan 'n bietjie.
Yeah, dis kak. And I used to get the ball, and I used to pick it up and say, Das Boetie van Ferreira. Now, Arnold, that means There's Budiman Ferreira, because he was Budiman Ferreira was the scrum half for the Western Province at the time. It was 1988, and he was a young Afrikaans man from Stellenbosch. And I think he was a late developer because he used to talk with a very high pitched voice. And then I used to be that guy. And I used to say, gee die bal, is Budiman Ferreira, wacht vir die bal, kry vir die bal, gee die bal vir homself. Ek gee die bal weer vir homself, ek gee die bal weer vir homself, ek gee die bal weer vir homself. He gave the ball to himself and to himself again and to himself again and to himself again and to himself again. He laat die bal van vorentoe. He's dropped the ball in front of him, Leon Gershowitz. And the referee say, speel aan, play on. Hy tel die bal weer op. Hy atloop die hele van stuk en druk hom in die hoekie en die hakkie. Wat 'n 3! All of that means what a free, because it used to be free in Zayda Robbie's day, but now it's a 5. It's very confusing, but that was my dream. And when I went to the Holy Land in 2013,
why aren't you on here?
I don't know, why are you not on there? Why are you not? This is my favorite part of Jewish Zoom calls. This is why the Garden Shul rabbi mutes everybody, which I think is a terrible thing, because you get some of the best when you listen to them. I don't know, is it on? I see the rabbi. I don't know.
Put it on.
Hear the rabbi. Can a rabbi hear me?
Put it on.
Put it on. Yes. Who's talking now? I don't know. Should I mute everybody, or do you want to hear the conversation, Sarah's iPad?
Don't they usually tell you to take it off rather than put it on?
They do, but I haven't been at a strip club for years, Peter. So Sarah, are you actually in Israel, or where are you, Sarah's iPad?
In Glen Hazel, but I don't understand Afrikaans. I'm born in Argentina.
Argentina? That's amazing, because I actually speak some Argentinian, which I learned at during the 2010 World Cup. I learned to speak Argentina.
Let's see what if you can say those words.
I can say, Mascherano pasa la pelota a Higuaín. Pipita para Messi. Messi, tira! Gol! La Duma! Does that make any sense?
Muy bien, muy bien.
Muy bien. Actually, I learned to speak a little bit of Spanish, Sarah, when I went to visit my uncle. My uncle was, you Arnold's wife.
Yeah.
Okay. Tough. Muy bien. And so what I learned, Sarah, when I went to visit Spain in 2000 and I think it was 2002. But my uncle had been there. He abandoned his family and left the country in 1994. Basically, I think the day after F.W. de Klerk's speech. Sorry, 1990. That was 1990. F.W. de Klerk said, we're unbanning the ANC. Mr. Mandela is free to go. We're giving Mr. Mandela a Mercedes-Benz and a microwave and a toaster. And then he left. My uncle got on the very next flight. He was terrified. He got on the next flight to Spain. And then nobody saw him for 12 years until I went to find him. And eventually I found him in the northwest in a place called Vigo, Galicia, in Galicia. Sure. And I found him in a small bar. You know those Spanish bars with pigs hanging from the actual ceiling? That's where, and you must know, as a Jew, when you find yourself in a bar with pigs hanging from the ceiling, that you have strayed very far from Hashem's light.
It's not pigs, it's jamon.
Haman, exactly, but the Jews on the call who wouldn't understand, and then they would think, "Oh, well, it sounds like Macon." And so I found him there, and I learned to speak Spanish by watching the A-Team. Do you remember the A-Team from the 80s with B.A. Baracus and Hannibal? And in 1972, a cracker man in Union was sent to prison for a crime they did not commit. These men promptly escaped a maximum security stockade for the Los Angeles underground. But today, still wanted by the government. They survived and sold their fortune. You got a problem? No one else can help? You can find them. Maybe you can hire the A-Team. So they had that bit in English, but then the rest was dubbed into Spanish. So B.A. Baracus would say things like, "Todos los gatos son pardos para la noche, saco fool," because there was no word for saco fool in Spanish. And I always thought it would be a great idea to dub that show into Zulu, where BA would speak fluent Zulu and be like, "Hey, Hannibal, and there's a hamburger aeroplane, sakafu," but there's no word for sakafu in Zulu as well as Spanish. So they never actually did that. But anyway, Sarah, when I was in the Holy Land, not of Argentina, but of Israel, went for the first time in 2013 to play cricket. Which the locals didn't really understand. They were, what are you coming in the Maccabea? What are you playing? And I'd say, cricket. And cricket. I'd say yes. He said, okay, so where are the horses? You fly the horses? No, that's, and then you can't explain. You just go, yeah, fine, that's, and then we would actually play cricket, Sarah, like we played in Ashdod, and the Israelis would heckle us. They would walk past and just heckle us from there. If the ball is coming, drop it in the Holy Land. You're playing Israel. It's a mitzvah. And it was just pathetic. And eventually they'd say, why this cricket, it takes so long, this cricket. The empire, he keeps saying it's over, but it's not over. And anyway, that's a cricket joke, Sarah, that you may not get, but you look entertained anyway, so I'll just carry on. And so basically I played in the cricket team, but it was my dream, Leon Gershlovitz, to play in the rugby, the Jewish rugby, obviously the Jew box. Now the Jew box, Sarah, sounds like the Jewish boxing team, if you understand Afrikaans, box as boxing. Or in Xhosa Amangund, but I won't go into that now. But the Jew box were actually the rugby, but I didn't make the rugby team for obvious reasons, so I played in the cricket team, which we ended up winning the tournament. We won gold, Peter Fine. Did you know this? We won gold in 2013. We beat India, the Indian Jewish, the Hindus, Rabbi Vedetsky, the Hindus, the Indian and Jewish, which actually means they drive a very hard bargain, which they demonstrated after we declared. We batted first. We scored 192 for 3. I believe, no, it was 201 for 3. And then their captain said, give us 199 to chase, and then we make Shabbos. It was a weird time, but we ended up, Arnold Orkin is like, did this really happen? Is he serious? Yes, this actually happened, Arnold. I'm for real. For real, this actually happened. I don't know what, maybe Monty Kaplan, what's happening there? Did you go out for a second and then you came back and now it's all happening again? Anyway, where was I? I was talking about, yes, so that wasn't, comedy was never my dream. I wanted to become, there's Mr. Josilovitz. He's back and he's wearing a shirt. Fantastic. It's lovely to see that you're looking more respectable, Mr. Josilovitz. And we look forward to hearing about the relationship with Debbie Allen later in the show. But actually, before that, Rabbi Vedetsky, my dream was to become a Xhosa praise singer. I studied the language. I was raised by a Xhosa woman called Nonzwakazi Kutwana, who I said Bazia. She was from a little town called Bazia in Matloseni in the Eastern Cape, Sarah. And Sarah's just looking at the camera like, I love it when people do that halfway through a Zoom show. It's just like, I don't know what this guy's on about, but I was raised by this woman, Sarah. She carried me on her back. I don't think you grew up in this country, so you got to understand, like, you've been raised by somebody on their back and you speak the language. I'll never forget the day she looked up at me and said, Puti, unzima. Sarah, that means you getting heavy. Unzima. And then she actually dropped me right there on my 17th birthday. That was the level of privilege that I was subjected to from a young age. It was a very traumatic time, but as a result, I got to university and I studied Xhosa and I wanted to become a praise poet. Now, you will have seen one, but perhaps not known that you saw one. When Madiba was inaugurated as president, he had a praise singer that came on the stage. He wore the leopard skins and the porcupine quills, and he delivered a poem at the 94 inauguration that went like this. Magweni, nina balutula, nani magweni timisweni, sana sela sana namkala zanda susu, halala khwalidla, Madiba tell. Yeah. And then they had a close-up of Prince Charles, Sarah. He was sitting in the front row, and you could see that he pooped himself right there. And I thought at the time, if Camilla was next to him at the time, she would have probably said something like, but she didn't, because she wasn't there. She was actually in the stables at the time. And that's a little bit of South African history that perhaps you missed, Sarah. I don't know at what stage you arrived in the country, but I don't know. Maybe you can clarify that. But anyway, here we are in the almost in the second year of COVID. And of course, the last pandemic, I was reading about it, 1918, and I was reading a piece by the Chev in Cape Town, and they said that the headline of the article was, the Chevra couldn't cope. And back then, people used to use the phrase, Jews used the phrase couldn't cope more literally than they do now, because now they use the phrase, but in a different context. Woolies have banned roast chicken, I can't cope. They've banned alcohol, I can't cope. They've banned gatherings, I can't cope. Raymond's not wearing a shirt again on the Zoom call, I can't cut. It was just a different time, but here we are now. And some of you I haven't seen. Robbie, I don't think I've seen you for, or definitely not for the last year. And I don't know if you're thinking, boy, Nick's aged. Because you might think, that people do think, actually, Peter Fine, the reason is, I actually realized this recently. I look of indeterminate age. So I could be an exhausted 35-year-old or an enthusiastic 52-year-old or a radiant 80, even a gorgeous 91. It's not entirely clear. But the issue really is with the hair, Robbie. Now, Robbie Vedetsky, I don't know if you're familiar that your son Lance, when you're in the dentist chair with Lance, he sometimes looks down at your hairline and then he will suggest, Peter Fine, in your case, it's pretty obviously, but in my case, less obviously, he said, I think you need to see Dr. Larry Gershowitz. I don't know who Dr. Larry Gershowitz was, but the next time that I was at Shul, at the Garden Shul in Cape Town, my brother-in-law actually came over to me and said, Dr. Larry's noticed you thinning a bit upstairs. Robbie, did you hear about the story? This is your son, Lance, I'm talking about. He comes to me, he says, we've noticed that you're thinning upstairs, all right? Okay. And I said, sorry? He said, yeah, we were talking about you from over there. And Dr. Larry said, have you noticed Nick is thinning a bit upstairs? So we've decided he's going to offer you a hair transplant. Arnold, did you want to interject there?
No, I just wanted to say that you mentioned my Uncle Robbie a few times right now, who's joined us because he's mastered the technology of Zoom,
At
which
90,
a lot of people say.
How old are you, Robbie?
That's what I wanted to say. This year, Bezrat Hashem, this year, my Uncle Robbie will be, like Pick and Pay. Everything is $3.99, $4.99, $10.99. My Uncle Robbie is going to be 99. Bezrat Hashem. And we are going to have a big celebration when that happens, Rufke.
What for?
I want to bless everybody on this Zoom meeting and myself that we should all be as well and as sharp as my uncle is at his age.
Please God, please God, please God. Baruch
When's his
Hashem.
birthday, Arnold? When's the birthday?
When's your birthday?
So my wife will know.
The 19th of December. 19th
of December. Fantastic. Please, God. We'll mark it down.
Mark it down, Rabbi. Robbie, look, you might say what for, but we know what for, because we want to celebrate the extraordinary person you are. And so that's what for. And now, Robbie, let me tell you the story I was telling earlier before we were so rudely interrupted by your nephew. So as I was saying, Robbie, Lance and this guy, Dr. Larry Gershowitz, got together and were examining my physical flaws. And then they came over to me, Robbie. Can you hear me, Rob? Robbie, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I can't understand. And my pictures have gone so tiny. And
don't worry, I'll talk clearly, okay? My dad was deaf, so I'm used to it. So they come over here and they say, Nick, we noticed that you're thinning a bit upstairs, okay? And then Dr. Larry says to me, actually this was Lance, he says, no, he's going to do a trade exchange. He's going to give you the plugs if you give him a plug, all right? And I said, Lance, that's a cuck joke. And he said, I know, but it's a good deal. So I said, okay, fine, because these things are worth 60,000 Rand, Robbie, for a hair transplant. Peter Fine, have you looked into it? Yeah. I'm sure you have, but there's a risk attached.
But then I'll end up talking more cuck than before, because that's where they want to take their hair from.
Yeah, and you could also look like a shag carpet from the 1980s. Anyway,
they take a few more facelifts.
I thought about it, and then I decided, you know what, I'm going to think about this. I said to Lars, I want to think about it. I'm going to go home tonight and look at myself in the mirror. And I've always had a dream, Peter Fine, of being a thespian. playing Hamlet, to be honest with you. And so I thought, could I play Hamlet at the next Maynardville open air season if I'm like a balding Hamlet? And then I thought, no, you can't be a balding Hamlet, and you also can't play open air Hamlet with a rug because it might rain, and then you got a wet rug on your head. So I thought, well, I don't know what, but I thought, what would Hamlet say? And then I realized Hamlet would say, to pay or not to pay. That is the question. And then I decided not to pay, because if I did become a hair transplant influencer for Dr. Larry Gershowitz, I would have to make YouTube videos on Instagram and things where I say, hi, I'm comedian Nick Rabinowitz. Before the transplant, I couldn't tell my jokes with a lot of confidence, but since the operation, I'm much confidenter, hairier, and funnier. And my wife's been offering me stuff left, right, and center, but it's the stuff in the center that I love the most. And so I decided that I wasn't going to do that. And so I've got exactly the amount of hair that I have now. But Arnold, I don't actually know how much you want me to talk for, because we're now on for half an hour. You want me to go on? Mr. Josh Lovitz is still awake. I think I can see him just in the corner of the picture.
Can I ask you a question, Nick?
Yes, Rabbi.
Thank you. First of all, your Hebrew name. All guests that we have on the show, we ask them their Hebrew name.
Okay. My Hebrew name is Natan Elan Ben Chaim Rivka Rocha Parogan Chutz Patochas Mazel Tov Rabinowitz.
I think I got a Chaim. There was a Chaim in there. Natan.
Yes.
Natan.
Yes.
Natan. Fantastic. And also, are you a fan of Jackie Mason?
Yes, I like Jackie Mason. I mean, I don't know him very well.
Jackie Mason, as we know he started off as a rabbi, right?
Yes.
And his sermons were so funny that the crowd started filling up in his shul. And he realized that he could make a lot more money being a comedian than a rabbi.
Is this the reason you're still a rabbi?
I was just going to say, if I could double my audience like you've done for me tonight, then I would start thinking of a career change.
Well, what you need is a writer. You need Peter Fine to start writing jokes for you.
True. But I was wondering if there's ever been a comedian whose his audience started diminishing so quickly that he decided to become a rabbi.
I haven't actually heard of that, Jonathan Fox, but I've just decided that my weekly shiur will begin next week on Tuesday. So thank you for that suggestion. Leon Gershowitz, will you be there?
Of course. I'm coming down specially.
Okay, it's going to be in Afrikaans because yesterday, and this might sound like I'm making this up, Lance.
Mark me certainly.
Okay, just mute Leon for a second. Last time, I was. There's a website called Genie. Robbie Vidensky.
Is that? Can I?
An ancestry website. Yes.
Nick, I want to. Is it possible to ask a serious question?
Yes, but I am in the middle of a very serious matter. But ask me anyway.
Did you ever have a problem in your show business career because of your Jewish facade and your Jewish surname and your whole thing?
No. Any further questions?
Okay, fantastic.
That's a definitive no.
Fantastic. That's terrific.
Well, let me just say, I've experienced there's one, virtually only one experience of anti-Semitism that I've had in my life. Do you want to know about that?
Yeah.
So
tell us.
It actually happened.
How did you react? Did you react by telling them a joke?
Well, I'll tell you what happened. I actually I drove past the scene of this event just yesterday. I took my son Ben to his new music, the new venue for his music lesson on Keurboom Road in Cape Town, and I had to drive past what used to be the Jewish sports club, Keurboom Sports Club, and is now. Now, obviously, Jewish sports is more of an oxymoron, but back then it was Jewish sports was an actual thing, and I used to play tennis, at the Jewish Sports Club. And one afternoon, I was playing with my tennis nemesis, Wisey Wiseglass, when Wisey Wiseglass's friend, who I didn't know he was his friend, arrived on the tennis court and started shouting for Wisey as if he was at a public sports match. Public tennis match. Come on, Wisey, you can do this! Whatever. And it was a very hot afternoon. It was like a February afternoon. It was like 30 degrees. We hadn't eaten. I was a bit hypoglycemic, hadn't had anything to drink. And I'd promised my gran I'd be back by 5 p.m. I was staying with her that weekend. Anyway, it got to like 4:45 and we were in the fifth set. It was a titanic struggle. This is quite a long-winded explanation of my first experience of anti-Semitism, but hopefully it will pay off by the end. And during the fifth and final set, we were 2-2 when Jared Gundelfinger actually was his name. He arrived at the side of the court, Rabbi Fox, and he started shouting, "Come on, Wisey, you can do this, go Wisey!" And I actually found it quite off-putting, and I started losing my cool with this guy, and I dropped a couple of games, and suddenly it was 5-3 in the final set, and it was, "Come on, Wisey, and go Wisey!" And then something just snapped inside of me, Leon Gershlovitz, and I went up to the side of the court where this guy was standing, and I said, "Why don't you," because my voice hadn't quite dropped yet, I was like, "Why don't you just shut up, Jew boy?" And that was my first experience of anti-Semitism. Because the thing is, it's always it's always the person you least expect, isn't it? You think you know a person, and then Jared Gundelfinger reported me, Arnold Garber, to the Jewish Sports Club committee, and I remember I had to wait for another hour for them to arrive after their bowls match, because they were all in their mid-80s. I had to wait for them to come and then go into the disciplinary hearing with my little tennis racket. And I'll never forget these guys. They were sitting there behind an oak table, and they were like, "Yes, so we believe there's been an incident of anti-Semitism on court number 3 at approximately 1700 hours. Is there anything you'd like to say in your defense, Mr. Rabinowitz?" And I was like, "Yeah, surprise! I'm Jewish." And they were like, "Oh, he's Jew. Harold, he's Jew. I mean, Harold it's a Jew boy that called the other Jew boy a Jew. I mean, is there anything in our constitution that says a Jew boy can't call another Jew boy a Jew boy?" "No, I don't believe there is anything in there's no precedent for that whatsoever. We're going to have to strike it from, I'm sorry, no, you're free to go, Mr. Rabinowitz." And I walked out of the door. Jared Gundelfinger was standing. He was very upset. He was like, "My Uncle Billy's a lawyer, and we're going to see you in court." And I think it was the very first joke that I ever made of my own accord. I was like, "Well, I just saw you on court." and that was the end of that. And because it was 1988, there was no evidence of what had happened, Sammy Vedetsky. Nobody had a cell phone. If you did that at Herzliya Highlands, people would have cell phone cameras. They'd be filming it. In 5 seconds, it would be on a WhatsApp group. It would have gone around the world. Okay, the US would have put an emergency missile on standby for a strike into Iran. The Beth Din would have met the Jewish Board of Deputies. Someone would have put a pig's head in the kosher section at Woolies. But this is a different age that we live in. Arnold Garber, I think. I hope that answers your question. And look, it could have gone further. These days, you end up in the court, the equality court, and in the constitutional court. Then you've got to get Gerry Nel to be your lawyer, and he's like, "My lady, my client's Jewish. Mr. Jared Gundelfinger's Jewish. This is a Jew boy calling another Jew boy a Jew boy. And if it pleases the court, I'd like to prove my client is Jewish by showing Appendix A, the photographic evidence of the meerkat."
Nick, thank you very much. Thank you. We're going to start winding up for a number of reasons. First of all, the rabbi always tells me try and finish by 8, and we still want to have a short drosha by the rabbi, because otherwise it's not a proper pre-Shabbos Zumzitz. And also, this is us. I'm one of the honorary residents of Sandringham Gardens. I'm turning 74 next month, so we've got to have early nights. So I just want to just say, I just want to just ask you to give one more thing to tell us. What is you telling us all? How should we tackle life in this situation for the next few months? Hopefully, it's only the next few months before this chalaria. You know what a chalaria is. Before this chalaria is eliminated. How can we cope with this chalaria and see and get to the other side?
Yes.
Happily.
Well, guys, I think one of the things I always think about is resilience. We have to be resilient. And Robbie's shaking his head. I'm not sure why, but that's a resilient chap. Look at him, 98 years old and still pushing iron every morning in his home gym. I think of Nelson Mandela, who spent 27 years in lockdown. And I think to myself, if Madiba could do it, he used to get up at 4:30 a.m. every morning, do the push-ups, do the running on the spot in his small little cell. And I thought, yeah, if Madiba could do 27 years, there was a meme going around, like if Madiba behind bars, 27 years, surely we can manage 27 months. And then I thought, yes. And then I thought, no, because Madiba didn't have a wife and 3 kids yelling at him all day after he'd come home from the dental surgery. So maybe that's bad advice. But then I don't know. Maybe I think we also have to find ways to keep our spirits elevated. I think it's very important. And people have different ways. For some people it's meditation. For some people it's going to mincha, Maariv, whatever rocks your boat. You need to do that thing. For me, I like to go back and rewatch the 2019 World Cup final when I'm feeling down. Arnold Garber, Jeff Allen. I put that on. I call up Zelda and I don't know what his name is. Raymond, Philip, Gerald. He looks like a Gerald. And then we go and watch the World Cup final, but in Xhosa, with the Xhosa commentary on. And you just the second half when the guy comes on. Zimbinda Madorba Pula Pulis Lape Loka Hokahana Stadium, Tokyo, Japanama Pogoboka Badala in England. We World Cup final from Kalan Dalaway, Bambola Fly half from Pogoboko, O'Handre Pollard, O'Handre Francois, Gerardus Liebenberg van Stein Pollard, because they know all the middle names in Afrikaans. Oh, Pollard, who tried to kick off a couple of Walla Pezu, chase a ball and Nangu Faf. Faf de glak, unge speedo, van in a hash is like a small horse. Faf de glak, nigga balalo, Poladu, Malcolm Max, and Delax Mappa, and Kabbalaba Pipi. And the moment that try was scored, the man ran out of words, and all he could remember was 5 words for champagne in Xhosa, and then he just throws them out. Lit Kashu, Yibabli, Shampapa, Shampizi, and if you don't feel better after that, then nothing's going to make you feel better, Arnold.
Sorry, one last message, Nick, before I call on the rabbi. One of the people watching you here, or one couple that you can see there, is Alan and Joan Porter. Now, I know that you've done lots of gigs for Chabad. Now, Joan was the principal of Torah Academy, I don't know, for about 10 years or more, something like that. What is your message to Chabad? I know that you've got lots of things to say about Chabad, most of them good.
Well, it depends which Chabad we're talking about, because last week there was a woman on a beach in Cape Town called Chabad who said that we're responsible for the pandemic. So to that Chabad, ordered to say, shut up. But not to this Chabad. And Joan Porter, you were the I was going to say the Prime Minister of the Torah Academy, but that sounds quite good. You were like the Margaret Thatcher of the Torah Academy for many years. You look very sweet now, but I'm sure you struck fear into the hearts of those yeshiva bochers for many, many years. And thank you for... I wish I'd had you as my principal, John. I went to a Waldorf school. I didn't know I was Jewish till I was 12. My dad sat me down and said, boy, there's something we need to tell you. And I said, oh my God, I'm gay. And he said, no, you're Jewish and gay. It was very traumatic, because there were no signs, Joan. I mean, when you're with your shiva bochas everywhere, you know you're Jewish. I had nothing. There were no obvious signs. We celebrated Christmas with the neighbors. My parents were not financially well off. We had small, straightish noses. No evidence whatsoever, other than at the urinal, when I'd look across at Peter Ainsley and think, why does his have a turtleneck and mine looks like a one-eyed meerkat? That was the only thing. And then they put me... Joan, I had to go to a crash course in Hebrew with 5-year-olds, like Jewish Gulliver's Travels, and then sing after like a month's crash course. My portion was Noach. I had to sing with that voice going, Rani Akara on my Haftarah. So thank you, Joan, for all the wonderful work you've done over all these years. Shkayach, Mazel Tov, Baruch Hashem.
Thank you so much, Nick. Thank you very much for cheering us up. We will never forget this evening. It's been really memorable, and we thank you and we love you, and hopefully sometime in the future we can have another round. Anyway,
thanks everybody. Goodbye, Robbie.
Brother Nick.
See you for your 99th, okay?
Thank you, Nick. I need you as my curtain raiser more often, because you more than tripled the attendance at the shiur tonight.
Thank God, please God, Baruch Hashem, Amen.
All right, Rabbi, and then we'll have literally a 2-minute message from Israel, because today it snowed. It snowed in Jerusalem, and it's a special day. So we will just have a 2-minute message before we wrap up completely.
Okay, thank you so much.
Rabbi.
Thank you, Arnold, and hello, everyone. As Nick so correctly said in the beginning, today was actually the 6th of Adar in the Jewish calendar, the 6th of the month of Adar, which means that tonight is the 7th of Adar, and it's a very, very significant date in the Jewish calendar, because it is the Yortzeit. It's the day, the anniversary of the passing of Moshe Rabbeinu, who passed away about 3,740 years ago, approximately. He passed away on the 7th of Adar. Just as a matter of interest, how do we know that he passed away on the 7th of Adar, that it's his Yortzeit tonight? That is because he spoke to the Jewish people. When he passed away, they mourned for him for 30 days. And they crossed over the Jordan into Israel on the 10th of Nisan. So they mourned for him for 30 days. They waited another 3 days to prepare to pass into Israel. So that's 33 days. If you work back 33 days from the 10th of Nisan, you get the 7th of Adar. So that's how we know that tonight is the Yortzeit of Moshe Rabbeinu. And it's a very significant date because Moshe Rabbeinu belonged to every single Jew. You know, when a person observes a Yortzeit for a parent or a relative, that's your own special day, a special day of reflection to remember the person and to do some introspection. But the Yortzeit of Moshe Rabbeinu is communal. It's for every single Jew, because there was never a person like Moshe Rabbeinu who was respected and loved by every single Jew over every generation. It's absolutely amazing. Since he lived, since his own generation, up until today, whether you are secular, religious, Sephardi, Ashkenazi, everything, everybody knows Moshe Rabbeinu, everybody respects him. He was our leader, and he is someone we all admire. And therefore, it's a communal Yortzeit tonight and tomorrow, and therefore it's a time of reflection for everybody, because it's our combined, unified Yortzeit. And there's one thing I would like to tell you about Moshe Rabbeinu, which made him so great and made him one of the greatest leaders of the Jewish people ever. And that is, he always stood up for the people, no matter what the people did. We know during those 40 years in the desert, the Jewish people were rebellious and they tested Hashem and they did many things which were not good at all. But every single time Moshe Rabbeinu was there at the front, defending the people, no matter how bad it was, defending the people, beseeching Hashem for forgiveness, praying for the people to Hashem. He never let them down for 1 minute. He truly loved every single Jew, no matter what he had done and where he had been. And that's a character trait that we can all try to emulate, not to be judgmental of our fellow Jews, to defend them, to be there for them, to support them, just like Moshe Rabbeinu, to take a feather out of his cap, a leaf out of his book, and to remember him for the tremendous leader that he was and the inspiration that he always will be for the whole of Klal Yisrael, for every single Jew forever. Thank you so much, and have a good Shabbos to everyone. Thank you to Arnold for arranging the scoop of Nick Rabinowitz tonight, and thank you to everybody for attending.
Okay, just before I hand over to Liz for a 2-minute report of Israel, I just want to show you guys a photograph. Can you see the snowman in front of the Kotel? That was today in Jerusalem. A snowman with a kippah on. Fantastic. All right, Liz, over to you.
Okay. So shalom from Israel. And just to mention, you know, Jerusalem's always known as the city of gold. Well, now it's the city of white. We had a white Jerusalem. It was incredible. We saw so many people smiling on their faces. The children came out. Everybody was like throwing. They were having snow fights. It was absolutely phenomenal. I actually went into town today, and it was cold, but it was magnificent. And it was just really, really the whiteness and the purity. And we waited 7 years for this day. So we are very, very grateful that it snowed. And I think it brought so much light and happiness to everybody. So I'll just quickly mention a quick, very good news that, and this is for everybody worldwide, that Israel has actually developed a spray. They're in the process, a spray and inhaler. It's at Ichilov Hospital. They've had a trial on 30 COVID patients and they recovered. So please God, this spray you just inhale it, you spray it. So please God, it will go all over the world. It will come to South Africa. It will be something that will be available, please God, and it will help everybody, with the COVID. So that's something very promising, and we look forward to more tests and more good results. And then the last thing, and this is something really positive, we waited a month for Biden to phone Netanyahu. We always hear E.T. when he said phone home. So we were saying, when is Biden going to phone Netanyahu? Well, yesterday he actually made the phone call. It was an hour phone call, and it was a very positive, very good phone call. So the two very good allies, and we really, it's such a beneficial alliance between Israel and America. Both President Biden spoke to Prime Minister Netanyahu. It was very positive. So just, Arnie, I want to thank you and Robert Fox and Nick. It was absolutely phenomenal tonight. A big Yeshua Koyach, and wishing you all a Shabbat Shalom and all the very best.
Okay, so I also wish you all Shabbat Shalom. And I want to just say, please join us. Next week, we're probably not going to have our usual Zoom session. We are probably going to have a reading of the Megillah, because according to the Rabbonim, you should hear the beginner live. You can't, to hear it via Zoom is the second best. So thank you very much, everybody. Good Shabbos. And those of you that I will not see before Purim, I wish you a freiliche, gesunden Purim. My cousin Cape Town waving to me there. Lance and Joanne, thank you for arranging this as well. Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.
Koyach, Arnold, thank you. Good Shabbos. Unmute yourselves and say good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos, all the best.
You can unmute yourself and we'll just keep it on for another 2 minutes.
Good Shabbos.
Market Brownie, I'll pay for the stitches.
Good Shabbos, everybody.
Shabbos, everybody, and happy Purim.
And all of you are welcome every week.
Wow.
I'll be there. I'm going to be there, Plineda. Thank you.
Right.
Good Shabbos.
Shabbos, Arnold.